dude, straight up, actually,
you walked in at the wrong time.
If you walked in at the wrong moment of like, yeah, them piloting the and your mom walks in and you're just like staring at her, and then she's like just looking at this like straight at you after seeing, you're like, it's not what it looks like, all right? Like, the problem,
grabbing onto each side.
The funny thing is, it's more like it's exactly what it looks like, okay, but it's not what you think it is. Like that's, I think that's the better way to put it. Welcome everybody to Otaku Flavored Podcast. Today's episode will be nostalgia cartoons. I guess that's the best way to put it. We're here with Jay.
How's it going, guys?
And
just kid right here.
Yeah, we're gonna, I don't know, let's start it off like pretty strong. What is a cartoon that you watched as a kid that you felt like didn't get a lot of love, or like not a lot of people nowadays would see it as one of the better cartoons? Because I have
that was the thing that I honestly felt like I was alone with all my cartoon joy as a kid. Like part of the reason why I didn't share my love with anime with people is because it seemed like nobody cared for the cartoons I was watching, and I always felt like an outcast for some reason for all the cartoons I was watching. So, also, admittedly, my dad was very anti-cartoon watching, so I kind of even hid it from him because he looked down upon me for it. So, I for the longest time thought that people weren't even watching like Courage the Cowardly Dog.
Wait, really?
And things like that. And then when I get older, it comes to find out that everybody I know watched and loved all these things that I did care about, but I was too embarrassed or too shy to like engage with people.
Oh man!
So I built a whole personality of myself that removed the possibility. So whatever it is, I honestly still to this day haven't talked to enough people to watch a lot of those things.
That's crazy. Yeah, I feel like, I mean, for me, a lot of our, like my friend group that I grew up with, we all watched cartoons. We all liked a lot of the same stuff. We all had a lot of the same stuff that we basically bonded over. But I know there's a couple of them that I don't know if they necessarily watched that I absolutely loved. My one that I feel like not a lot of people talk about that I really, really enjoyed was the Johnny Quest remakes. It's not like the original Johnny Quest, but it's like the ones that they came out. I think it's like second gen of Johnny Quest. I grew up watching those.
I mean, I know Johnny Quest. I don't know if I would know if there was a difference between them.
There's like a really old Johnny Quest.
Okay.
And then there's like what I grew up with watching. And I don't know. I don't meet a lot of people who watched that show or even like enjoyed that show as much as I did. I think it's mainly because I loved any of the episodes where they go into cyberspace or anything like that. Like, Reboot is another one that comes to mind for that like style of the things I like, because it's like, oh, they're going into a gamified part now. I love this show for mainly this. But
I think this made me actually think of one, and I see it as a cartoon because this is when I was still a kid and I saw it as a cartoon, and it was being rerun early in the morning with other cartoons. And so out of all the things that I've talked to people now, knowing that they did watch as many cartoons as I did, and a lot of people love anime, of course, so like all of this kind of runs together. But there was a really old cartoon that I saw reruns of all the time. So this one isn't 90s, right? This is obviously way earlier because it's black and white. But the original 007 was an amazing show that I loved watching. It came out at the same time with like Astro Boy. And I know next to nobody who knows what 007 is.
I have never even heard of it. What the heck? Well,
they did a remake, not a remake. They did a series, like continuation / reboot recently on Netflix. That is the most garbage thing you'll ever see in your life. Like, they couldn't even be bothered to make the characters look like they were sitting down because it's so bad CGI. Two textures hover on top of each other, and it's straight garbage. And it was like, I was so stoked when I saw that was happening. I told everybody's like, you got to watch one of my favorite childhood cartoons that I've ever watched. It comes out on Netflix. Hot garbage.
Oh, dude.
And I was like, please don't.
It's always so sad when that happens to like cartoons and stuff where you're like, all right, that's like Samurai Jack was one of the ones where when they were rebooting that, I was like, oh no. Like, oh, I'm glad you are, because the show deserves an ending. But at the same time, I was like, oh no.
I got to make a quick correction.
Oh no, what?
My brain just immediately said 007 for some reason. It's 009.
Oh,
is
okay.
the name of the
Okay,
show.
I still haven't heard
I
of
don't
it.
think that matters to literally anybody, but 007 was in my head because obviously, right?
Yeah,
Everybody
that's
knows
it's kind of
that.
funny because I was
But
like, oh shit.
009 is the show. Yeah, it's about cyborgs and whatnot. Yeah, y'all didn't hear about it anyways.
Yeah, I
And
know.
it's good.
I believed you
Don't worry
100.
about it. But yes, 009 is the actual name of the show. My brain wanted to skip out on it. I was like, I just said something wrong. I got to correct myself real
That's
quick.
so funny because when you were saying 007, yeah, the thing that comes to mind instantly for me is James Bond because I grew up watching
Right.
James Bond. Like that was one of my absolute favorite things. So I was like, I don't think this has
don't like
anything
James
to
Bond.
do with that, but I believe you. I believe that.
Well, there is a cyborg in there that's 007, there's 001, there's 002, and so on and so forth.
Interesting.
And there's the 9 main cyborgs that are all heavily racistly themed.
Okay. I mean, you already said
Basically-
it was in black and white to me, so it's like, all right. I mean, I feel like, yeah. I mean, older cartoons and all of that type of stuff. Yeah, we lived in a different time growing up than,
We
especially
really
right
did.
now.
The reboot tries to like snuff it out a little bit,
Oh
but
my
there's like
God.
in the original, it's like this is the Native American guy
Yeah.
to a T.
Yeah,
Here's
okay.
the Asian guy to a T. Here's the white guy, and here's the Barbie girl-esque aesthetic. And it's just like every single character is so on the nose, and they don't care.
Yeah.
It's almost like watching what was it, that Gundam series, Gundam G, where all
okay.
the mechs are like
Yep.
themed around the country.
No, they're all themed off countries.
Or-
Yeah. Good way to go.
Or like Black Dynamite's Race Wars or something
Yeah,
like that, like, or
that's
any
true.
of the race horror stuff from back in the days. It's like it's really on the nose.
Yeah.
But it's really good still. I highly suggest people watching the original.
I was gonna say, I might have
Same
to
thing
check
with,
this
like,
out
Astro
now.
Boy, which I know a lot of people have seen Astro Boy. So
A lot of people. Yeah, I actually personally haven't seen a lot of it. I mean, I've seen clips of Astro Boy, but I don't think I've ever sat down and watched an actual like full episode of Astro Boy. And I think that that's mainly, I don't know. I don't have a lot of, where do you even watch that stuff nowadays? Like
I
YouTube?
don't know where you'd watch it now.
Like I bet
but
you
I
can
used to
find
watch
stuff
all
on
of those.
YouTube.
But I also feel like I watched like a different part of the world than everybody else. Like I watched like the Andy Griffin Show as a kid and a bunch of other stuff that people didn't watch. Like I don't know why there's so much black and white television in my childhood, but like
Yeah, it's kind of strange.
I also didn't know anybody else who watched like the Mickey Mouse Club back in the day as well. So I used to watch like the old Zorro and all of those, and I don't know. I was alone with all of that, but I also watched TV late into the night.
Yeah.
And
I actually used to watch the old Zorro stuff, but I mean
was good.
some of like, yeah, I had some old stuff that I would come across. I'm trying to even think of where I would watch that nowadays. Like not even nowadays, but like even back then, where was I watching this stuff? Because yeah, it must have been
cable
way late at
television.
yeah, it must have been way late at
Mhm.
night when there was nothing else on, and I'm flipping through the channels, and I'm like, all right, well, let's watch this now.
Or dirt early in the morning is the other
Yeah.
section of that. Yeah.
Yeah, that works as well. I definitely didn't watch a lot of like as far as cartoons and as far as any of that stuff really late, other than Adult Swim. Adult Swim would come on. I'd watch Toonami a lot of the time. That's where I first got into like watching mainstream animes, I guess, like Dragon Ball Z and
Mhm.
watching like Cowboy Bebop. That's where I got my love for Cowboy Bebop. It's also how I learned about like old music that I would listen to, like the Gorillaz when they first came out. They were aired there. Daft Punk. That's where I learned about Daft Punk back in the day. They had a lot of really good stuff on Cartoon Network and Adult Swim back in the day.
They really did. A lot of stuff that I enjoyed for sure.
Yeah, Nickelodeon
But
too.
It took me a long time before I got to that. A lot of me growing up, my parents used to think that my insomnia was something that they could like. I just had too much energy or something like that, so they thought, "Oh, we could just wear you out if we like let you watch like old people shows." So I watched a lot of like Taxi Driver and Cheers.
Okay.
And a ton of just like MASH and stuff
MASH,
like that,
okay.
which all became some of my favorite shows
Oh my
ever
God,
at night
dude!
because like
Am I gonna
they
find
would
out
be
that
like, you can sit and watch this and some news and whatnot. So I'd stay up at night and I'd stay awake so much later than everybody else. So they'd fall asleep watching those things, and I would be sitting there on the lazy boy, and I'd be like, well, if everybody's asleep, let's see what cartoons are on.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I remember. I don't know a lot of people who used to watch MASH. I finally found someone else who watches MASH. That's kind of legit. I loved that
one.
show. I
Mhm.
like I feel like that was such an underrated show at the time. Like no one I knew was watching old stuff, and it would just come on. I don't even remember what channel. I want to say like AMC or like something like that. I don't even
Or
remember.
TNT or something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
or like
I don't know
TNT or
either.
yeah, I can't think of what channel, but it would
Yeah.
come on and I would be like, all right, yeah, dude, let's watch MASH. And it would usually be like 2, 3, 4 episodes in a row. And I'm like, this is
Mhm.
sweet. Now that I think about it, I don't think I ever watched like any of that sequentially, but that would be
Neither
kind
did
of
I. It's always
that would
random
be
episodes.
yeah, always random episodes. Yeah. That would be kind
Yeah.
of a fun one to go back and rewatch now that I'm an adult and actually see an overarching
Yeah,
story in it. Like that would be kind of
there's a
neat.
lot that we missed as kids for sure that I would love to see now.
Yeah. That's kind of interesting to think about. A lot of those old shows too, like where do you watch those nowadays? I know
Gilligan, all of
Gilligan.
those,
Yeah,
yeah.
I remember Gilligan catching that.
Cannonball Run.
Yeah. It's weird to think like where I feel like there's TV channels where we could probably catch these things nowadays. But I don't
Yeah, but who's gonna pay for TV?
yeah, I mean
That's
I
an
have
oddity.
cable, but I don't
Oh,
even watch
you
it.
have cable?
I have cable. Yeah, when I'm one of the dying breed
Wow.
of cable, mainly because of Food Network of all things, weirdly enough. Um, I have always been like I grew up during the Emerald Lagasse days of like Bam and all of that stuff, and I loved it. Like it really turned me in and my love of food just like I don't know to 11 or like whatever you want to like. I love Food
I
Network.
mean, I guess that's the reason. I just didn't imagine anybody my age would still be a holdout on TV, but
Yeah,
I guess there's somebody to prove me wrong every day. So I guess you do have an out to look for some of those old things, but
I
even then,
do.
a lot of those
Yeah,
hits, I'm surprised you've seen some of those.
yeah. I mean,
'Cause-
as I said, yeah, I used to just troll like one of my favorite pastimes to do, weirdly enough, was to flip through the channel extremely slowly and have like different channels like kind of make sentences together you could time, and it would make some funny stuff sometimes. And that was just one of the things I would do. And then after a while, I'd be like, oh, there's nothing really on. So I would end up landing on like MASH, or I'd end up landing on, yeah, like Gilligan's Island or something like that. Cause it was what was on Nick at Night or whatever. And nothing else was on at the time to watch other than maybe something on Adult Swim. But
Yeah.
Adult Swim, I remember not necessarily liking King of the Hill or any of the other stuff that potentially was on when I was a kid. And now I love that stuff. Some of those shows I'm like, "Oh, this is like King of the Hill especially." I feel like they put that show when switching to Adult Swim, like when Cartoon Network switches over from Cartoon
Mhm.
Network to Adult Swim, just because a lot of kids are like, "What is this? This isn't funny." And then
I liked it as a kid.
yeah, I don't know. It's definitely good. It's a good show.
Yeah.
But it's
So when I grew up as a kid, I grew up in a rural Montana town, and it wasn't until I moved out of there, so around like my later childhood years, that I finally got to see Cartoon Network because we didn't have those. Where I lived, we had 4 channels,
oh, you poor
and it was what could
deprived.
come over the air. There wasn't a cable company that was
Oh
running out there.
no.
Our town was so tiny, so I I watched those 4 channels continuously. I remember at some point there was we got a few extra channels, and that's when I got in Disney. But that wasn't a cable box or anything like that. That was just what was run over the
Crazy.
rabbit ears. And I mean, this is how small my town was. Our radio stations was like four channels. Half of that was country music. The other half of that was a religious gospel. And if you listen to it long enough, it all became religious gospel stuff.
Crazy.
And that was how rural of a Montana farm town I lived in. Legitimately growing up on a farm as a kid, so we didn't have all that stuff. So we had like that. I think that's why I liked King of the Hill and Simpsons so much, because those were the adulter cartoons that I had to watch and interact with. And so I was also
could
so
see that.
addicted with Fox Kids in the morning and things like that as well, because those were my cartoons. I didn't get until I think like 2000 is when I finally got continual watching of like Cartoon Network, and I was able to watch Adult Swim and all that.
Oh,
Was like
interesting.
probably 99,
Whoa.
2000, right in there.
So like that's when you would get like Dexter's Lab or
Hmm.
like any of
So
those.
yeah, that's when all that came into
Whoa.
play. Was like when I was around 10 to 11, because all previously to that I was relegated to those small amount of channels. And yeah, I think that's why I
That's
watched
crazy.
so much Disney Channel stuff, is because that was like our specialty thing that came in, and we didn't have all the other stuff that I could watch yet.
I can't. I
A
didn't.
channel that was nothing but cartoons blew my mind. That didn't
Yeah, I know,
exist for me
right?
when I was
Yeah,
young. It's
I
like
know. I'm over here like you
if I could have
poor,
had that,
you poor
yeah.
deprived, you poor deprived child. Like, dude. Yeah, Disney Channel was the one I watched the least of all of the, like, I would say the big
Mhm.
three, which was Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, and Disney. I was mainly Cartoon Network, and then Nickelodeon during its heyday. Like they had quite a few shows that were
Yeah.
really good, and then yeah, not a lot of Disney. I can't even think what I would watch on Disney. Was Codenames Kid
We had
Next Door?
Nickelodeon, which was nice.
Was Codenames Kids Next
Codename was
Door?
on there.
I think
Yeah,
it was on
that
there,
was on
right?
Disney.
Because I
Yes.
know that moved at some point to one of the other channels. I can't remember when, but that was a good show, and that I didn't catch a lot because it was on Disney at the time. I'm trying to think, did you ever watch like Angry Beavers?
I
Or
did. I loved
okay,
Angry Beavers, but
I
that
was
was,
gonna
yeah, I think right when I was like 9 or 10 when I started watching those
like
ones,
Cat Dog and
until 11. So
like
yeah, yeah, all of those.
okay,
I didn't watch them until later, but I
some of
mean,
the
and to be later, right? Like 10, 9, 10, 11, like in that age group, that's still, I mean, your peak kid years.
no, it still
But
is.
like,
Yeah. I would
yeah.
agree. Actually, I feel like you got them right when. I mean, I remember all that stuff the most. It
Mhm.
I can't exactly remember when I started watching Cartoon Network or any of those things, but it was probably like 7, 8, 9, somewhere around there. So I don't think you were too far behind
Yeah.
as far as like watching these shows necessarily finally getting them.
No.
But
But to compensate for that though, like I did have Nick in morning, like Nick cartoons in the morning, and we had Fox cartoons in the morning, which was
yeah.
like your GI Joes,
Okay, yeah.
your X-Men,
Yeah. Beast
your
Wars?
like
Did you watch Beast Wars?
Beast Wars.
I love
Yeah,
Beast Wars.
Beast
Transformers,
Wars
yeah.
was freaking great. And then we also had like there's a ton of things in those early slots, which is also what kind of Card Capture Soccer, things like that from the 4Kids
Yeah.
translations from back in the day. But
Yep.
that's a lot of like my introduction to like the anime stuff as well. But that whole cartoon slot is definitely, that was my bucket of cartoons that I would watch, and I didn't really have much else to do that. I also loved Power Rangers back in the day.
Oh man, I went
Sentai stuff was
hard.
amazing.
I went hard on
Mhm.
Power Rangers. That was what I grew up watching as far as like my first ever like passion or my first ever thing. I was like, I love this show. I had almost all of the Megazoids that you could get, or Megazords that you could get. I had
Yeah.
all of like the weapons and everything, especially for the first season, like when it first came out for us, and it was like
Mhm.
your generic American like dub over and everything. That was so, to me, mind blowing. It was like, this is so sweet. Like this is everything I could
Yeah.
ever want in a show. It has characters who transform. There's giant robots. They have costumes and weapons, and like I love that martial arts, because I grew up taking martial arts from like
Mhm.
age 4 to 10. I was enrolled in doing what basically taekwondo, so which was a lot
Okay.
of fun.
I did wrestling as a kid.
Yeah.
Which probably in part of it was due to my love of Power Rangers for sure.
Oh yeah. I mean, such a good show growing up. I wish I had a lot of that stuff, like still, especially like, I don't know, being able to make like a Megazord would be so cool nowadays to have one back there. I know
Right?
I
That's
built
part of the
the.
reason why I love having the Voltron.
I was gonna say I built the
Lego set
Voltron
that I
too.
have.
You can't see because
Yeah.
mine's like hidden in a corner. But yeah, that was one of the reasons why I got so into Voltron. I didn't get into the old show. I knew it existed, but I never had like really watched it. But when the
The old one's
Netflix,
good.
yeah, when the new one came out for Netflix, I ate that up. I was like, all right, reliving my childhood basically. Just not Power Rangers, it's now Voltron, but close enough in a lot
If
of
you
ways.
love Sentai and Kaiju stuff from back
I
in the day
do.
and all that fun stuff, one of my favorite shows that came out recently is SSS S Gridman.
Yes,
It might have
SSS.
enough
Yes,
S's on there.
yeah, it's 4 S's.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So freaking good.
Really?
And it got me to a point where, yeah, like I love that thing so much.
I need
and
to watch
got me
it.
to the point where I went back and I watched. I started checking out and looking for the stuff that it was based off of, because it's a continuation of the original Gridman series.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Which is freaking awesome. You don't need to watch the old stuff to enjoy it.
Okay.
Literally, they're separate enough to be fine, but they do have continuity in between them, and so there is an enjoyment of going back and watching the old stuff, which is in the live action,
and that has like
suits and whatnot,
and that has like giant monsters and big suits and interesting. I'll definitely have to check that out. I love that stuff. I mean, I grew up just devouring Godzilla. That was like one of the weird IPs that as a kid I loved watching it. I actually went back and watched some of it, like some of the really old stuff recently, and I was like, oh wow, this did not age nearly as much as I remember. Like I watched
campy as hell.
I watched the one of my favorite movies to watch when I was a kid was like when they first introduced Baby Godzilla, and I fucking I loved it. And I remember I was like, oh shit, we gotta watch this. So we sat down, we were watching it, and I was like, I don't remember a lot of this. Like I don't remember it being so whatever. I don't know the best way to put this, but like not like, I don't know. It's,
cheesy and campy?
Yeah, cheesy and campy, I guess. Yeah. Like to me growing up, it's like, dude, this is so cool. Another one is well, I'm probably gonna butcher it, but Gamera. I like the turtle. I loved that one as well. He's like the giant spinning turtle. He's basically the turtle version of Godzilla. But yeah, okay. I loved all that stuff. I remember when
I wasn't the biggest Godzilla fan, I would say, but I liked all of the Power Ranger style ones.
Yeah,
like I like the ones where they did fight monsters and whatnot, but I didn't. Like I watched some Godzilla stuff, but I didn't have. If it wasn't shown on TV, I didn't watch it. Basically, was the problem as a kid.
Yeah,
so finding those things was really, really difficult.
Yeah, I had a bunch of old VHSs somehow that my mom must have bought just randomly from some store. So yeah, other than that, I don't know how I necessarily had them, but I loved them. I loved Godzilla and all of that type of stuff. Just giant monsters fighting each other to me always was sweet, which went into Power Rangers like very easily, like, oh wait, this is giant monsters that they're fighting, and they have this giant mech that's fighting them, and they like form it with smaller mechs. This is so cool. Like that, like I think that's one of the reasons why I wish there was more like shows that reminded me of that stuff, and learning about what it's like SSSS Gridman. That sounds sweet. I'll definitely have to check that out. I was like, how many S's is it? I know it's 4.
Yeah, I always try to do the same thing.
So that's sweet. Another
Maybe
one.
you were pronouncing it wrong. It might be Gridman.
It might be Gridman, actually. You're right. Maybe we are. Yeah, another one though, like I loved Zoids. Did you ever watch Zoids growing up?
Zoids was dope.
Zoids was really
Zoids
sweet.
Up until the point that they started making the character sit on top of the robot instead of inside of it.
Yeah,
that got weird.
I left before that happened. I think I watched like the first season of Zoids. I remember maybe into the second one, but yeah, that was a sweet show. That was definitely a good one.
I think a lot of that leads towards my transitioning to liking mecha anime a lot.
Yeah,
is I think where a lot of that stems from.
I think so for me as well. I think it's Zoids, and then the other one's Gundam, because I grew up watching like Gundam Wing, the best of all the Gundam shows.
Oh wow.
The most lovable protagonists and characters ever in an anime. But yeah, I grew up watching that, and I really loved Wing as a kid. I mean, I haven't gone back to watch it, so it's probably bad. I think I've watched
didn't like Wing back in the day, I'll say that much, and I still haven't liked Wing ever since.
I think I watched the first episode not that long ago, and I forgot how cringy Hiro is as a character. Growing up, I really enjoyed it. I definitely did like it. I mean, it's giant robots fighting each other, so to me, it kind of makes sense. It's still in that vein of like Power Rangers in a way, where it's like instead of them forming all together, they just pilot their own giant robots that fight each other, sometimes in space, and I love space, so
So
I'm very
I remember watching like Voltron and Macross and a bunch of things like that, but I didn't actually watch Gundam all that much until I was an adult.
Ooh, I
Funny
can see.
enough, like
Okay, I could
I
see then.
watched some, like I watched G, I watched Gundam G, I watched Gundam Wing, which I didn't like,
Yeah.
and one other Gundam one that I can't remember, but it wasn't until like in my 20s when I sat down and binged the start of Universal Century Timeline to the end. And
Okay.
that was months of my life to watch all of that.
That's crazy. I've never even thought of actually sitting down to binge all of that because it's a
Don't,
lot. It's
yeah, just watch the movies.
I can
They'll
see that.
catch you up through all of Char's counterattack and all that fun stuff. Because
Yeah.
if you watch like I did, like I dedicated so much time watching from episode 1 till Unicorn, and at the time Unicorn was the most current one out there, and that's a lot to watch.
Yeah, I was always amazed because I had quite a few Gundam fighting games and things like that. And I'm like, I have no idea any of these Gundams, and they have crazy names, some of them, and I don't know what Gundam you're from. I just knew Z, or I knew G, and I knew Wing at the time. And so it's like my Gundam references was very small. And one of the things I remember, when we were in Japan, one of the arcades, they had like a Gundam fighting game that was really sweet. It was like 3D. It was the best Gundam fighting game I've ever had. Their list of Gundams was unbelievable. And I always remember scrolling through it and being like, I don't know any of you. Let's just try this one. And being like, I have no idea what's going on. Like, but man, that's what really made me realize there is a lot of Gundam content out there. And
Mhm.
I haven't even skimmed the surface.
Well, it's crazy too because so much of it is spin-off stuff that isn't canon to anything else. Like one of my favorite Gundam series is Double O, has zero continuity with the rest of the Gundam universe, and it's a great series. But if it's not Universal Century Timeline, it's spin-off.
Yeah. Okay.
Like it's still Gundam, but it doesn't have anything to do with anything. And so there's a ton of that stuff. Like Iron Blooded Orphans is one of the newer ones, all the way to Wing, NG. Those ones are all, those don't count as the Gundam story arc. They're their own separate universe. So that's the even bigger thing, like Zeta and all those. But then you have like the 8th MS team.
Oh, wait, them, yeah.
That is part of a Universal Century, and then you have War in the Pocket, and all the way up to, I believe, Thunderbolt might be a part of the Universal Century Timeline.
I need to watch Thunderbolt. We were talking about that the other day.
That one's one of my absolute favorites, yeah.
And
8th MS Team, War in Pocket, and Thunderbolt are like some of the 3 best there is.
8th MS Team will forever be my favorite Gundam show. Like, I don't know. Maybe it won't after I watch more Gundam, but man, that show is very well done for what it is. Like,
oh, it's really good. I think it's anytime that the Gundam series truthfully shows you both sides of the argument and also the grunts. Not
also
like,
the grunts.
I don't care so much when it's it's like the grunt stuff, because I don't really care too much when it's just like, hey, these guys are in the most overpowered thing possible.
Yeah,
they're just gonna go beat you up.
Yeah,
that whatever.
Because it kind of it more
stuff to me. And I don't care.
Yeah, for me, like those type of shows more become like Goku versus Vegeta, or like that type of thing, where it's like there's these main characters that are doing these crazy fights, and not necessarily like, yeah, these foot soldiers or police or like whoever normally in the grand scheme of things you would actually see, like your normal soldiers, because that way it feels more, I don't know, relatable in some ways. But
yeah, personal a lot, and also like the outcome of little things matter, and that there's consequences that can occur. Because a lot of times, there might be a character that just gets demolished in the middle of something, and that like they're not coming back. You feel it, and you're like, you don't know if each character is going to suffer that fate or not, or like what's going to happen to them. There's not a sense of plot armor hanging over everybody.
Yeah, which is, I think it makes a lot more sense when you are a grunt. Yeah, that you're, oh shit, you're in this mech that pretty much everyone else is using, or it's like a specialized version of all the one that everyone's using. So you're like, the skill of the pilot comes more into play than just the overpoweredness of the mech. Like, oh, my mech has stretchy arms that do these crazy things. Or like I have like these heated blades that come off my back, which was my favorite Gundam, which was Sandrock Gundam. But still, like they're
Is that your
all
favorite Gundam of all time?
I think so. I will say just mainly because yeah, it's what I grew up watching was Wing, and I loved it at the time. As I said, I
Yeah.
haven't gone back and really watched it. It would remind me of a lot of the shows I've gone back and watched recently. I actually started doing like a bunch of, not to like go on a complete random tangent, but I started watching like old cartoons like Chowder and what else did we watch? We watched I can't remember the name of it, but yeah, I started watching a bunch of like older shows that I was like,
Flapjack.
oh yeah, Flapjack. Yeah, whoa, you read my mind.
Well, it was in the time period of Chowder. I was like, what happened during Chowder that I
And
remember as Flapjack?
I just watched the pilot episodes, but still it was like, wow, I don't remember it being this cringy. Like it's not terrible, and it's not like they're it just I was like, man, my humor was at such a different level than what it is now.
I didn't like either of those shows, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, they're not for everybody. And going back and
Yeah,
rewatching
they're
them,
not mine.
I kind of
Yeah.
understand. Like there's a certain type of humor that those shows are going for, and they nail it in some ways, but man, is it like what are we doing here? Why am I
I mean, it's like the people who are like, "Hey Jay, you'll love Big Mouth. It's like a new cartoon that's really good."
Oh,
And I
God.
watched an episode of that. And I was like, "This is garbage, guys."
Oh god, that's in the same vein, I feel. I don't know. I've never watched Big
Yeah.
Mouth truthfully, but
I mean, well, it's definitely more adult themed, but it's still just crap.
yeah. It's
in my opinion.
interesting.
But also, like, I wasn't a SpongeBob kid.
Yeah.
It just wasn't.
I didn't necessarily. There were episodes of SpongeBob that I love. I feel like SpongeBob for me is there's some
Hit or
episodes that
miss, in
stand
my
out in
opinion.
my brain that I'm like these are actually pretty funny, pretty good.
Yeah. Every now and then you can convince me of a good episode. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it wasn't something I was excited to watch.
I can't like. I think the last cartoon that I was actually excited to watch was Steven Universe, and that was just such a
Mhm.
well done cartoon. It's what a kid's show. It's still, I would say you could still show this to a kid and the kid would enjoy the show. But it
For
has
sure.
so many like things going on in it that I feel like if you were a kid, you'd be like, oh well, whatever. Like I don't totally
Yeah.
understand what they're talking about, but this is funny. Like, but yeah, that show is deep. That show's pretty good. Like,
If you want a show that's similar to that, that's new, the Hilda on
Oh.
Netflix
interesting.
is so freaking good. It's basically it's the newest cartoon, and it's almost so whimsical and so like magical of a cartoon. I can't think of another cartoon like Steven Universe gets really close to it. It's like
I'll have to check
Steven
that out.
Universe meets like Adventure Time versus something that's almost like anime-ish but not.
Yeah,
It's just
because
so adorable and cute.
season 1 of Adventure Time to me stands out really well as a lot
Mhm.
too, because just the world building in Adventure Time and what they were going for originally, like I really loved. I dropped off at some point in that show, and I can't really
Yeah.
remember I can't like pinpoint or tell you
Well, there's
when it
some-
was, but
There's some real highs in Adventure Time. Like there's some
Yeah.
of my all-time favorite cartoon stuff in Adventure Time.
yeah,
But I would say that about 60% of the time that show was complete garbage.
yeah. I feel like there was a
That's
lot of.
how I felt about it.
It kind of reminds me of SpongeBob in a way, where it's like there are episodes that stand out to me that I'm like, this is actually extremely good, for especially for a cartoon, and then yeah, there's other times where I'm like, oh man, I don't know why I'm watching this show, and that
Yeah.
I think that's
No,
why I liked Steven Universe so much, because I feel like it towed that line so well of this is a cartoon that's funny, but this also has like serious notes, which is what I feel like Adventure Time originally was kind of going for. Like, hey, this is comedy, this is funny, but there's a crazy world going on here, and there's like this lich, and there's a lot of like world building, and there's some crazy stuff if you start thinking about it. And I feel
Yeah.
like Steven Universe for me, I'd never like really lost that in some episodes. I was like,
Right.
okay, you know what? Like I'm here for this ride wherever this is going to take us. And they did fairly good until the very end. Like that show did very, very well. I don't want to do any spoilers cuz you're still watching it, but
I'm on season 5 episode 8. I need to finish the rest of it.
yeah.
I just need to get a hold of the rest of it is my problem.
Yeah.
But,
I'll hook you up.
one problem that exists thank you. One problem that exists with Adventure Time is that Pencil Ward left the production
Yeah.
after a while because he had an argument with Cartoon Network, So that does kind of reason as to why some of it isn't all that good. And also, that man is a madman.
Yeah.
He
I mean,
sabotages his own work a
it's
lot.
really
Like,
weird.
look at
Bravest Warriors,
yeah,
right? Is that what you're gonna
yeah,
say?
Bravest Warriors is what I was
Yeah.
gonna say. He sabotaged the crap out of that.
Yeah, I loved the
And
first and
well, because
second season of that show. Like, it's good. It's
yeah,
very good. And then I
he
dropped
didn't
off,
want to
but
be popular.
yeah, I don't
So
know.
season 3 is another great one, but season 4 is such one is that, and that's the change where he took it off of YouTube at that point and he put season 4 on Verve, and that's the only place where you can watch it, and it's garbage.
Yeah.
Like, I hate that season, and I love the Bravest Warriors. I have a cat bug right over there for a
Yeah,
reason.
I love Catbug.
Like,
Catbug is such a good
yeah.
character. Like, oh my god, I love him. And I feel like a lot of those characters are really well written. And I actually remember when the pilot for that show came out, and it had just aired on like a new channel that they were calling Cartoon Hangover, and it was sweet because it was like, it felt like Pendleton Ward was trying to make his own Cartoon Network, basically. I don't know if he was the like sole person behind doing that. I know there were a couple other
I don't
shows.
know. It's obviously like a group of things, but
It
still.
was, but yeah, I don't know necessarily who it was that brought that up into what it was, but it had a bunch of good other cartoons on it that I was like, you know what, this is sweet. I love Bravest Warriors. It's Bee and Puppy Cat, right? Is that the other one?
Bee and Puppy Cat was on there, right?
Yeah. And I can't remember what else was on there, but those are like the two shows that stand out to me that I was like, these deserve, like, these could be on TV. Like, these are amazing shows. Like, I don't see them
really
being on
did feel
TV,
like-
but
It really did feel like something great, like cartoons of old, like we're coming to a new breath was coming into them, and it felt just like, yeah, I saw comic books coming out for them. I saw
Yeah.
all that stuff around it, and like the hype for it was there. But then Pendleton Ward was like, as far as I remember, he was just mad that it got popular
yeah.
and self-sabotaged it in the same way that he did with Adventure Time, and just wanted to leave. And I might be wrong on that, but that's the only thing I can picture of the man is a man who wants to self-sabotage himself. And the whole network crumbled and fell and disappeared, and it didn't seem to any logical reason why it did.
Yeah. I mean,
Maybe
I didn't.
there's something going on in the background, because then they moved a lot of it over to Verve.
Yeah, a
And
lot of
they're
it
even
became
making
Verve,
the
yeah.
Bee and Puppy Cat new series that is coming out.
Yeah.
So like those properties still exist, but they exist in a fragmented and parsed away area that I have no idea why. There was also other things that like creators from that area that it was such a good little time, like
It was.
Toy Pizza and all that stuff, and then all those are gone. And it just seems like, how did all of these little things rise so quickly and then crumble so fast?
Yeah. I think it's interesting too, though, how there's a lot of interesting shows like that came from that, and it kind of got me back into watching cartoons and being excited for cartoons. And I think that's what led me into, I don't know if you ever watched Infinity Train. It was like a short little special that was on Cartoon Network, and I loved that show. I was like, this started from such a simple, because I'm pretty sure that animator just did like a short clip of it basically, and then that like became insanely popular, and then I'm pretty sure Cartoon Network was like, we need this and to turn this into a real thing. And I like when I see that type of stuff, and I think it's I think that's what I was so happy about Cartoon Hangover, because it seemed like a place for that to happen, where it's like, oh, there's animators, there's these people who deserve cartoons to be on TV, but like, it's hard. I understand, like, as a network, you're spending all this money to make a cartoon. It has to be popular. It has to be able to make revenue, sell toys, whatever it might be. So you're not necessarily going to pick up everything, and you're definitely not going to give everything the day of light on, like, on air. And also, it allowed for these things to be a little more, like, I don't know, lewd, crude, rude, whatever it might be, like a little bit more adult themed in some ways. Because they're on YouTube or they were wherever, so it's not necessarily on TV. So I feel like I had such high hopes for it, and then I don't know where it went, because I personally dropped off after a while, but I dropped off I think after Bee and Puppy Cat finished and Bravest Warriors was going into season 3. Something like that.
Which took a long time to air anyways. Like, I can see why so many people dropped off in that time, because it felt like a natural like climax to everything because they stopped producing so much.
Yeah.
And the channel started. That is the point where the channel started dying. 3 eventually came out, and then they hard canceled it until they brought it back on Verve. But at that point, all of the channel was dead. And there's a part of me that wants to like go back and like scavenge around the corpse of it to really see what occurred and why it occurred.
Yeah.
So I imagine there's got to be a story in there somewhere besides a man who wants to sabotage his own, own works.
There probably is. I mean, it would be interesting if like we could ever get to the point where we're bringing on people like Pendleton Ward. He is one of the creators that I would love to actually have a conversation with, mainly because
I would too.
I do like his creative mind. I love a lot of the worlds he's built, and a lot of the stuff, like the direction he was going in Adventure Time, especially in the beginning, for me was like, oh wow, like I don't know who you are, but man, you're doing world building right now that in a cartoon I have not seen like ever, really, because a lot of the cartoons I grew up watching his stuff like Our Real Monsters or like Cat Dog, or a lot of those. There's like not necessarily like an overarching story or the world's like all that interesting necessarily. And maybe there are, because I don't know, like when things were airing on TV back in the day, if you were like us, if you missed a week, like you missed that episode. If you missed like 2 weeks, you're like now behind. Like you're... Yeah. If you weren't able to watch a show, or you didn't have like a way to tape it or whatever, like you could miss out on whole chunks. So a lot of the times, yeah, I would just end up watching whatever was on. And usually it wasn't necessarily episodes that would go like one after another. Like a lot of those shows were aired or made in a way that there isn't an overarching story. So that can happen, basically. So they can air whatever episode they want to whenever they really want to. Where, yeah, if there ever was anything like that for like Adventure Time or things like that, there's still bits and stuff. I remember after finishing the first season being like, there's a lot here. There's like, wherever this is going right now, there's actually like an arcing story, which I was more used to in anime, because that's usually how anime goes. Like a lot of them aren't necessarily just these little bits of episodes. They usually are bits of episodes with something that's building up. And yeah, you didn't get a lot of that in like, I don't know, I can't think of anything in Ed, Ed and Eddie that was like building up to some crazy climax.
Did you see the last episode?
I didn't actually. I don't know, maybe I didn't. That
is a masterpiece of cartoon
history. I need to look that up now. There's an end episode.
Yeah, it hits. It hits.
Oh
hard.
Man, I'll have to find that now. I love that show. That was one of my favorite shows growing up. Ed and Eddie was always like, anytime that was on, was really, really one of the ones to sit back and just enjoy.
Yeah, same. I love that one so much. Plank. No, everything about that show is one of my absolute favorites. I connected with those kids a lot, like kind of hustle, like Ed does and whatnot. Like it just
yeah.
Also, so much good times.
Or just like the nerdiness of Double D. Like yeah. I like, I don't know, even just Ed Boy, man. I loved him, man. A lot of those characters, they just gel so well together. That's one of the shows where I feel like if I went back and watched nowadays, I'd probably still like it. I think that Courage the Cowardly Dog is another one that comes to mind where I'm like, I probably would enjoy these even nowadays.
Pinky and the Brain.
Pinky and the Brain.
Watched that recently.
Yeah, Animaniacs. I think even like Dexter's Lab. Dexter's Lab to me, like I really, really loved growing up. That was one of my favorite cartoons. I don't know if I would still enjoy it as much as I did as a kid, but maybe.
That one doesn't hit for me the same. Like I still liked Dexter's Lab a lot, but it doesn't have the replay value as much.
Yeah.
It's not one that I would want to seek to go back and look at as highly.
I could see that. Yeah, that's like coming to mind. I loved it when it was on, but yeah.
For sure. But within in the context of a lot of these old cartoons that we loved and enjoyed, there's a lot of the cartoons that are either getting movies, individual episodes, or downright continuations that are happening now.
True.
Like, did you see Rocko's Modern Life's additional episode that they came out with?
I want to say yes. No, I totally did. Yes, I did watch the Rocko's Modern Life one. The like little movie they did.
So it was so on the point and on the nose. And it's funny because there were so many people who hated that episode, and that episode was making fun of the people that it knew would hate that episode.
Yeah, I
and it
can
was
totally.
just the most meta thing I had ever seen. It's like,
I
how
actually,
could you hate this? Like,
I know.
it knew you were going to hate. It's so good.
I mean, that's the whole episode, actually, when you think of it. Like,
Mhm.
it literally 100% is about making an episode of a cartoon that hasn't been around forever now, and then they want to make an episode of it. And yeah, it's so.
It's 5D chess. And
Yeah,
it's just,
actually, now that I think
thought
about
was
it,
so hilarious
like,
on the people who didn't like it. It's
that's
just like, how?
that's really true. I didn't even think of that. That was a very good one though. Invader Zim. That was another one. Did you watch
Invader Zim got a.
Did you watch the movie?
Invader Zim movie was really good. It didn't feel like it was like a thing of that I wanted out of Invader Zim, but I was still happy to get it.
Yeah,
I didn't think
I can see that. I think they wanted
it felt Invader
to.
Zim-y.
For me, I think they wanted to, like, kind of explain a little bit more and give you like a little bit more of the world and everything about Invader Zim in a way.
Yeah.
And it was so meta in a lot of ways because I mean the beginning of it just showing like, yeah, he's like still been like the entire time basically just frozen in his chair, stuck there, and it's like, yeah, we kind of feel that. Like, we've been waiting a really long time.
I thought what it might have done would have been taken into consideration the comic books that came out in between the original series and now.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem like it acknowledges the existence of those at all, which I guess makes sense, right? Because who really read the comics? I did.
Well, yeah, I could see that. I didn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's actually another interesting like thought though, when there is material made for a show or things like that that's no longer going or it might not still be airing, but there is like a continuation of the story. If I was a writer and I know let's say you wrote Invader Zim and now you're coming back, they want to bring you back to write the next part of Invader Zim, but there's all this content that's been made by other people during that time. I could see basically being like, you know what, like, this is how I want to do it. I created the original show. This is the direction I think it should go, basically. I'm going to just brush this all off to the side. I mean, it kind of sucks in some ways because these other people took your show and turned it into something different or unique or whatever they were seeing at the time, which I think breathes a lot of life into shows a lot of the time. But I could see that. I think for me, if I was a writer and they brought me back for a show that I had written a long time ago and I had something in my mind of the direction I wanted it to go and that didn't line up with the other content, I would be like, all right, well, we're just going to toss that out. Like, it sucks, but I could potentially see doing that.
Well, with Invader Zim, I believe he did have creative control over everything that happened all the way up to the
okay.
The movie and whatnot. I think that was 100% exactly what he wanted to do, which is great, you know, because I enjoy all of his work.
Yeah, me too.
A lot of his stuff has always been good. And I believe that, he should have had 100% control of what was going on with the movie. But he's somebody who I would love to pick the brain of. If we ever had somebody like I'd choose to bring on, I'd bring him on to interview him. Because it was Invader Zim and another cartoon that wasn't really a cartoon, but is a web series called Foamy the Squirrel.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Those two things were for so long, like, a huge part of, like, I don't know, something I latched onto where I would watch all the way up until now.
Yeah.
There's something that I've always defined my interests in things that I enjoy, and that type of humor and those type of styles and drawings in between those two have always been my thing.
I could see that. There's quite a few things that I would love to check in with because Invader Zim was one of the shows that kind of came out of nowhere for me. It was very unique for what it was. And I remember at first I was like, I don't know if I'm going to like this. And then they showed Gur's character and I fell in love with Gur like immediately. And I think that happens with a lot of people where they're like, you know what? I love this dude. And yeah, I think for me, like, that's what was like, all right, I guess I'm watching this entire show. Like, I might as well. Like, when it got canceled, it's one of those things where when shows like that all of a sudden aren't there anymore and they just abruptly kind of end in a way, it's very strange. I always am like, what happened? And I know it's because of ratings,
Yeah,
but it's like
yeah.
it's weird to think that
But
I'm watching this as a kid, or like you're a teenager or whatever it might be, and you're like, my show's no longer there. Like, why? Like, why did you do this? Another one that
I would
happened. What were you gonna say? Sorry.
no go ahead.
Um,
You finish your thought.
yeah, I was just gonna say another one that happened with me. I mean, I guess if you're sticking with Invader Zim, we should stick there because I'm about to go to Metalocalypse because that was another
Oh,
show that
Metalocalypse is really good.
that just
Well,
ended.
yeah. So really quickly
Yeah.
about Invader Zim is I feel that it was less about ratings, and it probably is and could have been. But it's funny because it's such a goldmine of merch and long term society. Like everybody loves Invader Zim. It is like 90% of what it seems Hot Topic has sold over the last
Oh yeah.
20 years.
Yeah.
It's huge, and it's one of those like cult shows that you're like, did this really die from ratings, or is this just a failure on Nickelodeon's part to understand that they had a secret hit show because they were airing it at the wrong time or not giving it the what it needed to grow?
Well,
And I think that probably might have been the bigger problem with it.
I think I could see. So the weird thing about Nickelodeon to me is that they had a bunch of shows to me at the time were gold mines, and I think what happened was SpongeBob kind of exploded and became
Yeah, it did.
so popular that it dwarfed all of these other shows, and they're like, we don't need any other cartoons because they dropped a ton of their cartoons. I remember the all of a sudden the dryness of Nickelodeon, like going, I can't even think of any of the shows that all of a sudden came out after they started dropping, like Invader Zim and Cat Dog, and like I'm trying to even think any of the other ones that were on Nickelodeon, because a lot of them blur for me because
Mhm.
I would just go back and forth between a Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network, and I'm like, was this on Cartoon
Right.
Network or was this on Nickelodeon? Because that does happen to me quite a bit. But yeah, Nickelodeon
Same, I
dropped.
can barely tell you what network said what.
Yeah, Nickelodeon I know dropped a ton of their like cartoons, and it was very. I think that had something to do with it, like
Hey
some
Arnold.
exec. Oh yeah, Hey Arnold. Yeah, it's another one. Yeah, where there are these shows that are just so nostalgic to me. These cartoons that are so good, and they were all on Nickelodeon, and all of a sudden Nickelodeon canned the majority of them, and SpongeBob was only one of the few ones that survived that I can think of. I can't think of any other show. Is SpongeBob still going?
What-
Does anyone know that?
What makes me think of all of these shows that I do remember disappearing, they were all cartoons that also appealed to like teenage-ish ears,
Yeah.
kind of the same way that like the Teen Titans did. And then Nickelodeon
Uh-huh.
realized, hey, teens are kind of like an okay demographic, but younger kids, we can hit them with Teen Titans Go, and we can hit them with SpongeBob, and we can hit them with all the stuff that entertains like actual kids, not
Yeah.
teenage-ish years. And so just like they regressed everything and made it
Yeah.
derpier and more cutesy and
Yeah.
whatnot. And that, I think, yeah, probably sells more than the slightly more grown up, you know.
Yeah, I
teen
mean,
stuff. It's
if you think
not
about
all
it,
grown up,
like
but-
that market's huge. Like, I mean,
Mhm.
there's always kids. There's always going to be these kids that just like stupid, silly stuff, and I'm guessing that sells more than your edgy teenagers. Like, because Teen Titans is an interesting one. I'm pretty sure that's Cartoon Network, but Teen Titans to me is one of those shows that's
Yeah,
like,
I think it is.
this
Yeah.
show it was so good, like it was like, oh shit, like this is a good show, like after like Batman Beyond and like all of these other cartoons that were on Cartoon Network, like the original Batman and stuff like that, or the original Batman animated series. And then all of a sudden like Teen Titans Go comes out and it's like, oh, this is good, like I actually really like this. And then just
I didn't like Go.
yeah, and then all of a sudden they ended it and they rebooted it as Go. And I'm weird. I like stupid, silly stuff. So I would watch Go in the mornings before I would like. I'm like an adult too at this point. Now I'm thinking about it. I'm like easily 20
Yeah.
something, and I'm like sitting there eating my cereal, watching Go like a total idiot. But Go is one of the shows where that was like a guilty pleasure to me. Like I enjoyed regular Teen Titans better than Go. Go is just like fart jokes and just stupidness, and I mean that's what it is. But yeah, every once in a while there's some funny, good stuff that happens in that show. Like one of my favorite episodes actually is the one where they make fun of that they canceled Teen Titans Go, and it's just
Yep.
it's such a good callback
good
to the
one.
show where the evil villain who's in charge of like TVs basically is like, yeah, maybe I shouldn't have canceled that one, and you're like, yeah, I know. I wonder if that's like an exec or something who's like, you need to write this in because that's kind of how we feel. Like we should have at least finished this.
They wanted to know how it ended.
Yeah, no, straight up, like
good
they were
stuff.
invested in it, and they were like the only exec that was like on the board that was like, come on, you guys, I'm an executive producer, you can't cancel this right here. Like, I love this show, and the cartoon's like, nah, we're cutting your funding. We needed to be like fart and poop jokes. Like, it's like, no, what are you doing to my show? But I agree. I think teenagers aren't a demographic that's as large, or it isn't like, I don't think sells merch or things like that as much as like a SpongeBob does, or like whatever. Because yeah, I don't know.
Also, nowadays, now that anime is becoming more mainstream, it's on Netflix and all that stuff. I bet you that demographic is even more dry now. It's just like you graduate to that instead.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
You start getting actual adult content that is animated.
Because it's one of those things I could totally, because why would you necessarily go watch like a Teen Titans or something like that when you can go watch like a Darling in the Franxx, or because I don't know.
Maybe that's too much for kids.
No, I mean, but I guess what I'm trying to say is like you're evolving into. Okay, sure. I guess that makes more sense than Darling in the Franxx. But okay, good point. Actually,
Darling in the Franxx is like if I walked in and I saw my like 12-year-old son, and I'd be like,
well, I was thinking older. I was thinking
leave you alone here.
I was thinking more older. I was more thinking like you're like 14. You're like now growing up, and you're like, you know what? I don't want to watch like kids stuff anymore, and I walk in and my 14-year-old or 15-year-old's watching Darling in the Franxx. I'd be like, all right, yeah, I guess I would be like, all right, I see you're starting to become cultured. I guess I will leave you to be and to figure this out on your own. You don't need me here to make this awkward. But yeah, that's definitely one of the shows that I
like. That's a show that like you hear somebody walking down the hallway, you start sweating. Is the door gonna start turning?
Oh my god, that's true.
That show does not lend itself.
No, it's so funny because it's one of those shows for me that like I absolutely love right now, and I'm like binging basically. And yeah, and the more I think about it, like as a reference, I'm like, oh wait, no, that's a really good point. It's basically sexy Evangelion.
Like they're about ready. Yeah, they look like they're about ready to get down and screw. Like it's just like,
dude, straight up. Actually,
you walked in at the wrong time.
If you walked in at the wrong moment of like, them piloting the and your mom walks in and you're just like staring at her, and then she's like just looking at this like straight at you after seeing. You're like, it's not what it looks like. All right, like. The problem,
grabbing onto each side.
The funny thing is, it's more like it's exactly what it looks like, okay, but it's not what you think it is. Like I think that's the better way to put it.
Yeah, explain it to somebody who's never seen it.
Yeah, I will say the first time I ever watched them start piloting the mechs in that show, I was like, oh my, all right. I guess this isn't something that you would just put on like to watch like
this might be a euphemism for something.
No, it's so because it's not like they're doing anything necessarily like terrible, but it's just the position that they're in and the way that they're acting, and like it's just how suggestive. It is extremely suggestive. But at the same time, it's like they're in full outfits and stuff. Oh man, it's so suggestive though. Like it's bad. That's so funny to think. Yeah, don't walk in. If you guys are watching Darling in the Franxx, lock your door. All right, it'll save that awkward moment when someone walks in, like your roommate or your mom or whoever it might be, and you're like, oh shit, now I have to explain a lot of stuff real quick. Like,
it's an amazing series.
It is an amazing series,
but it's hard to think of another series that has kind of like that same kind of like innocent but lewd vibe to it.
No, it's true. Because I mean, especially for that show, a lot of shows are trying to be actually suggestive. I mean, I'm not saying that Darling in the Franxx isn't trying to be suggestive, but a lot of that suggestive in the way that you normally would think of it, like, oh, like panty shots or titty shots or like what bouncing boobs, whatever it might be. But like this show is like
that you can't explain away.
No, exactly. This show's like, what what's going on? Like, they're piloting a mech, Mom. Okay, this is just how this technology works. It's very true though, because at the base level of it, yeah, it's not like anything bad's necessarily going on. But man, that would be an awkward conversation. That would be so fucking. You know that someone out there has had to explain Darling in the Franxx to their parent that walked in as they were watching that show. Like, you know, yeah. That must, dude. If that's happened to you, comment down below. No, but seriously,
let us know exactly how that went.
Oh
That's
my God, dude.
Right there.
I mean, there's definitely shows that, like, I feel like your parent would walk in, especially if you were like 16, 17, and your parent would be like, "What are you watching? Why are you watching this right now?" And it's like, I mean, why is that girl doing the things she's doing? Don't worry, Mom. All right, like, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, that's some problematic.
I can't
stuff.
think of anything as bad as Darling in the Franxx now. Like, I literally, that was the funniest show to have someone walk in on. Like, I've been watching High School DxD right now, and I feel like if a parent walked in, they'd be like, "Oh, all right, I guess they like girls." You're like, yeah,
there's like some TNA stuff. Like, yeah, it's so funny because it walks right up to that line of like lewd, etchy stuff, but it's not.
But it's not. Yeah.
It's referencing to it. Yes, it's like you're supposed to understand. Like, them piloting this mech is basically a euphemism for them fucking.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
They're boning.
Yeah.
But they're not. They're piloting a robot to save the world. It's the same thing. Like, yes, we get it. It hits you over the head with it.
That shit's sexy Evangelion, 100%.
Yeah, I can't think of anything else that like
Pacific Rim, but if they were suggestively trying to fuck each other.
But they were in a warm embrace.
Yes, yeah, I guess, yeah, constantly. Dude, when the handles come off the first time, I was like, oh shit, all right, like, oh god. Like, I didn't know where we were going with this, but man, I know where we're going with this now. Like, only in anime, dude. Only someone in Japan could come up with something this perfect, okay? Like, dear god, right? Such a good show. If you guys aren't watching Darling in the Franxx, go watch it. Good show.
Yeah,
one of the
really
best, if not the best waifu. I know. I'm trying to think if you guys know any other like shows that just border that line of like, dear God,
so
please don't walk in. Yeah, but actually isn't. Yeah, because I agree. Like, a lot of the shows, like, you're watching Konosuba, your mom walks in as he steals her panties and stuff. You're like, what? It's a show. It's funny. He used steel. Like, you're trying to explain it, but that's still
sure, son.
That's still like not in the same vein of they're piloting a mech, Mom. And she's like, I have so many questions right now. I'm just gonna leave you. I'm like, oh man. But yeah, I definitely, I don't know. There's some of these things that are special. It's like only in anime that I feel like you could find this type of content or run into these type of things. And it's one of the reasons why I love anime, man. Like, who else is going to come up with this stuff?
Why would you ever build a robot like that?
Why would you ever build a robot like that? That's a good question.
Unless you really needed the male pilot to be horny as F.
I mean, yeah.
In order to pilot, just staring at ass the whole way.
Why isn't the mech working? I can't get it up. The mech's not getting up. It's like, oh god. All right.
Look, I need to see the panels on the back of her head. That's why we're here.
Oh, it's such a good show. Oh man, I love that show. Yeah, as far as mechas go, it's good
because it is the female who is connected to the robot, right?
No, she is. Yeah,
all that stuff is vibing off that. So there is a story reason as well as to why it is positioned that way. Like,
no, maybe
she doesn't need to be bent over, but
yeah, I mean, you could go like Pacific Rim style where they're standing next to each other, sort of ordeal necessarily, but like it's not the same. It doesn't come across as the same, and yeah, I 100%. That would be a person, I don't know who like created that show, whose mastermind was behind those robots, but I would love to talk to them. That's for sure. If we can figure that out, if anyone knows that, that would be the guest. That would be.
I think we need to learn fluent Japanese for this one.
Well, yes, that is definitely like end game tier. But how crazy would that be?
On Crunchyroll. Yeah, he was the creative team was at Crunchyroll. One of the years I didn't go, and they did a whole signing and like large thing there, and that would have been cool to see.
Yeah. I've
I
never
missed out on that. I'm sad.
I've never been to an anime convention, and I need to go to one. I need to pop that cherry,
What?
man. I know. I've been to a lot of conventions, but never to an anime one. I was going to go to Fanime this year, but I guess last year now. Oh shit, you guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, that shit got canceled. If you guys didn't know. And then I was going to Crunchyroll Con or Expo. I guess it's Crunchyroll Expo. But
Yeah, Crunchyroll Expo.
'cause
I went
both
to
of
the
those,
2019 was the last one I went to, which
Yeah.
was
both
this
of
is the
those take
last
place
one.
right next
shut
to where
down.
we live, so it was like, oh, this is a
Yeah,
no-brainer.
if I
Like,
would have known you hadn't gone, I would have said you should have just drove down with me because I drove down each day for it.
yeah, I mean that's what we did for when TwitchCon was in San Jose. So it's one of those things where, yeah,
It's a morning drive.
it's not even
You
that
know,
bad.
30 minutes
Yeah,
there.
that's why I was prepped to
Yeah.
go this year. But yeah, it just didn't work out. So, and I don't think it's gonna work out
Wow.
this year either. Sadly.
Probably not, but the next one that does.
But the
yeah,
next one that
we'll
does,
just
yeah, well,
put one together.
I mean,
didn't
hell
realize you
yeah, we
hadn't
are.
gone.
We're turning this into a thing. All right, you kidding me? Like, go around, record some stuff, like meet some people, talk to some people. That sounds like a fun little trip. Like,
So you haven't ever been to like Comic-Con either, have you?
no, I haven't actually been to a Comic-Con either.
Wow.
Well, actually, that's a
I've
lie.
gone to Comic-Con. I'll never go again because it's crap.
That's
but-
that's a lie. I've never been to the international one. I've never been to San Diego,
Okay,
which is the main one.
gotcha. I went to San Diego Comic-Con and it was a horror, but it was fun. It was
Dude,
great.
I feel
Just
like
so many people.
that's the thing. It's like it's amazing. I've heard it's amazing, but dear God, is there a lot of people? Like,
Mhm.
and I mean, I went to Silicon Valley Comic Con, which was really cool. That was a lot of fun. I learned a lot of stuff because my main con that I would go to was TwitchCon, and man, is that a different whole vibe than
Oh,
going
yeah.
to your actual convention. Not to say that TwitchCon's not an actual convention, but I was just so used to different things. Like going to an actual Comic-Con is just such a different, I don't know, beast. There's such basically it was mainly the meet and greets. Like we got there to go see David Tennant, and I'll never forget. So like we had gone to TwitchCon. That was like the convention we went to before. And if you want to meet and greet someone, you stand in line, you go and meet your favorite streamer, you get to say hi, you get to shake their hand, whatever it might be. You get a signature, you do whatever, and then you head on, you maybe go into the next line to go see your another favorite streamer. When we went to what was it, Silicon Valley Comic-Con to go see David Tennant, we were like first to run over. We didn't get there first because there were a lot of other people who were way more hyped than we were to see David Tennant, and man, were they quick to get there. So we're standing in the line. We're probably like 20th. And they're like, so if you've bought your ticket to see David Tennant, just let us know, basically. And I was like, oh shit. Like, we need to buy something to be in this line to meet David Tennant. And I just looked at Tiff. I looked at Tiff and I was like, we got to get out of this line. We don't have a ticket, and I do not know how much this costs. Luckily, it was her birthday coming up, and I was like, you know what? I'll buy you a ticket to go see David Tennant. So we ended up buying a ticket to see David Tennant and get a picture with him, which was really chill. He's a cool dude, but it's one of those things where I was not expecting whatsoever to pay the amount of money that I did to do these things. And I was like, because I was so used to like just walking up. One of the funnier things too, like
I've never had to pay for one of those.
yeah, one of the funnier ones too was the actor who plays Emperor Palpatine in Star Wars. He had one, like he was one of the in the same like time period basically, and they were only letting one person go up to meet David Tennant and do the signature and get signed and stuff like that. So I hopped out of line, let Tiff go do it because it's her favorite actor. She loves, or one of her favorite actors. So I was like, yeah, you go do this. I'm going to go wander, basically. So I was wandering. I was looking at some of the other lines. He didn't have anyone in his line. And I was like, oh, shit.
Sucks.
All right, you don't have anyone in your line. I'm just going to walk up. And I start walking up. And they have like a little handler, kind of. And they walked up like to meet me halfway. And they're like, do you have a ticket? And I'm like, nope. And I turned around and just walked away. I was like, I'm not paying to go see Emperor Palpatine right now. It's probably only like $50 or whatever, but I'm still not.
That sucks. Yeah.
I feel bad for the guy. He's sitting
I've
there.
never gone to one of those that made you charge for one. That's really weird to me.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think I would ever pay for it either. But
yeah, I mean, there were people that there were meet and greets that weren't paid for, like a lot of the comic book artists and a lot of like that wasn't paid, but like the well-known actors like Stan Lee, it was his last Comic-Con. It's I don't know if he went to any of the other ones. I know it was the last one for Silicon Valley at least before he passed
Yeah.
away. R.I.P. But yeah,
Yeah,
it was kind of sad because at the time we're like, oh, we could see him, and I was like, nah, like we're already buying the one for David Tennant maybe next time. And then yeah, he passed away that year, and it was like, oh man, I guess that was the time to go see Stan Lee before he died.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I would rather have met him earlier in his career, or like at least I get earlier for us
Yeah.
isn't that much, but like still like
Yeah, I'm not a big meeting celebrities person. I've never have been.
I'm not either necessarily, except for like a specific few people. I know Dan Harmon was
Yeah.
one of the people. I know Justin Roiland, if I can ever meet you, if you ever want to be on the podcast. But yeah, I definitely
yeah, like Johnny Vasquez, I want to meet him, but yeah.
there's certain people that I like really, really wanted to meet, and I mean I've met basically all of them at this point. But other
The
than
only
Justin
person I
Roiland,
wanted a signature from was Neil Patrick Harris, and I got that.
yeah. I
So
was really big on getting signatures for the Twitch streamers that I looked up to. Like the first year I went to TwitchCon, like they gave us these little booklets, and man, I got like everyone's signature. That thing has so many signatures from like basically everybody who was big at the time.
I don't know why that doesn't interest me. I would like to feel a connection to wanting people's signatures, but I've never had a reason for it in my head.
Yeah, I think
I've gotten artist signatures, but that's not.
that's a little.
That's because they were signing their work.
Yeah, that's a
but
little different in a way. I definitely would
Yeah.
agree with that. But yeah,
Like, if I get something from them, I guess signing it, but I wouldn't want a CD or movie signed by the actor or singer necessarily.
yeah.
Art just feels different because it feels like they're supposed to sign their work. I don't know.
I guess art. I mean, art specifically, when you think about it, is almost always signed by the artist, so it does make sense. But as far as like, yeah, getting anyone else's signature for most other stuff, I totally agree. Actually, I think the only reason why I liked getting Twitch streamers autographs as much as I did that year was because I don't feel like they get to do it a lot. So it's like, hey, dude, I want your signature. Because I know if someone went up to me,
Yeah, I guess.
if someone came
Yeah.
up to me and was like, dude, can I have your signature? I'd be like, oh, hell yeah, let's go. Funny story, I've done it once. I've had one person ask for my signature at not last year's TwitchCon because that didn't exist, but the year before that. And man, that was awkward as hell. I will never like that was I was like so out of nowhere because I had just done the rivals tournament for Team Fight Tactics, and so I was just off of that, and I ran into someone who recognized me from the year before, and they saw that I was wearing the competitor rivals thing, and they're like, dude, you finally made it, can I get your signature? And I was like, yeah, sure, of course, man. And I like went to go sign, and I'm like, I don't have a signature. How do I sign Savage Bear TV? Well, I have my name. Like I can sign my name,
Okay.
but I don't have a name
I guess
for.
my name is my.
No,
my,
it's easy for you, you smart son of a bitch. But like, for me, I was like, shit, what do I do? Do I just do what I do for my normal signature, which is my initials? I just do TH basically. But then I was like, do I just do SB? Do I do SB TV? Do I do Savage Bear TV? Do I do just Savage Bear? I'm like sitting here like staring at this thing, like, and all these things are coming to my head. And I'm like, I've never had to sign something for anyone. So I kind of came up with one. I basically just do an S and a B, and then I just put like a little bear paw at the end of it, basically. And I was like, that's neat.
I was in my head trying to think, is there a way that you could design an S and a B that almost looks like a paw or a bear head? And I was like,
maybe.
That exist.
that was the thing I think that was always interesting about getting people's signatures for TwitchCon too. And the first year that I did it was just seeing how everyone signed their name, basically. And it's like, oh, some of these you can tell they don't get to do this all that often. So they're like, all right, I guess I'll just write my name out. I'm like, okay, I mean, that makes sense. Other people have like, yeah, I can do cursive. So they'll just do their name in cursive, basically. Makes sense. But some people like,
I'm so weirded out on the amount of people who can't write or read cursive in California.
it's a lot.
That bothers me.
Yeah.
I came from a place where cursive was like such a mandatory and well-learned thing which is like the middle of the U.S. It's like such a commonplace thing. And I come out here to California, 0 people can read my handwriting. It's like,
Well, they basically
couldn't even read my stuff.
they stopped forcing people to learn it in school after a while.
Apparently in California, yeah, but
Yeah.
everywhere else it seems like it was still a thing.
Yeah, I think it was for a while. They took it out of general curriculum, I've heard, though, completely now. So like no one's gonna know how to read your stuff sooner or later. But
it feels so weird.
cursive
I
is
don't know. The owner of Nord, the company that we work for, doesn't know cursive. Like, I think he knows cursive, but he can't read my cursive, and he can't read most cursive. And
well, I
it's just
can't
like,
read your cursive either, Jay, because you suck at. I'm just kidding, but
no, I have really nice.
no, you have
cursive,
really
too,
nice. He does actually. You have really nice handwriting. Truthfully, I have terrible handwriting, but it is one of those things where a lot of people are not used to seeing and reading cursive. But that's why I like personally, because I mean I'm not the best at making or like drawing. I'm not good at cursive in general, so
Mhm.
I do like the people whose signatures and stuff like that are more interesting and kind of like stylized instead of being cursive. Weirdly
Yeah.
enough, one of my favorites, what was it? My favorite signatures is Dr. Disrespect's. And it's
Okay.
basically just, it's like a sweet looking DR and then an underline under it. And I was like, okay, this is actually kind of sweet. Like, I kind of like where you're going with this. It's minimalist. It's what I like. Because I always come at it as if I ever became extremely popular, right? And you had to sign 100 signatures, 1,000 signatures, whatever it might be in that day, you want something that you can replicate easily and quickly. Like, you don't want this crazy ass signature that
That's
you're like,
how yeah.
like, because yeah, I could see that getting tiring, man, especially like if you are nice enough to take everybody's signature that comes by, like for a thing, I don't know, and you're extremely popular. Like, I remember,
Yeah, I just work with the J and we're done.
yeah, I remember, like, I think my favorite signature story that I got though was Day 9, because I was trying to hunt him down. I was like, Day 9, I can't go to your meet and greet, so like I need to find you on the floor. I know you're hosting this. He was like doing a hosting thing for one of these mobile games, so he was pretty much at that booth, and he was like in the middle of doing his hosting, and I kind of like flagged him. I was like, or no, that's right. He had like stepped to the side, and I kind of just, I was like, fuck it. Like, I'm just going to edge my way over here. I'm like, can I get your signature? And of course, he's super nice. Sean's super nice. So he signs it or whatever, and he walked away with my pen. And I was like, Day 9 just stole my pen. Like, and I need that. So he like walked back into a part of like the booth that's kind of like off limits. And it's almost like this like little sitting area that they had for them, like, before they go back in. And I just walked in there and I was like, hey, you took my pen. And he's like, oh, I'm so sorry. And he's like, I've taken like 9 of these. And I was like, it was like, man, I could totally see doing that. Like, are you kidding me? You just take the signature and you just walk away with the person's pen. And what do you do?
Oh yeah, no,
Well, you're like, you're watching him walk away with your pen and you're like, oh no, I'm never getting that back. And I was like, oh no, I'm getting my pen back, you guys. Like, I love this dude, but he ain't keeping my pen. No, I would love if Day 9 kept my pen, but I needed it for more signatures. I was on a hunt, dude. I was on the hunt.
Furious. Must
Yeah.
go. Nice.
Pretty much if I recognized you and I knew you, I was trying to get your signature that year. I'll have to take pictures and show off. Like, I got everyone's signature that I knew except for Shroud, because Shroud didn't go that year. Like, he went for like a split second and then bailed, basically. And I mean, I kind of understand and feel that. But so like the next year I was like, I gotta get your signature. So I brought the thing from 2017 and I was like, here, you need to sign this. So I have his signature on it, but it wasn't from the same year. I got it the next year. It was the only ones I was missing out of everybody. Nowadays I would probably still want to get a couple more people's on that. Like, I didn't get Anthony's, Kong Feng's, I'm fucking up his last name, but I didn't get his signature, and I would like his signature. But yeah, I don't know. It was a lot of fun. I'd like hunting down signatures. It was kind of a fun thing to do. The next year, I told myself I didn't want to stand in line for meet and greets as much, though, because man, that just wastes a con. Like, you waste like you could probably waste an entire convention standing in lines waiting to like meet these people. And Yeah. The next.
I try to avoid lines as much as possible. The only time that I ever did a line is the San Diego Comic Cons. I did lines to get the promo cards for Magic the Gathering, simply because I knew I could flip those to pay for my travel.
Yeah. Which makes sense.
I did. I bought it for $100, sold it for $500, and I was like, ah.
Yeah, I mean, that type of stuff makes sense.
There.
That's something that's really sweet about cons, truthfully, is like all the con exclusive merch and stuff like that you can get. That was a lot of fun for like
if
for
you know
TwitchCon.
What you're doing with them and flipping them, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was something that was sad almost about like getting merch and stuff from TwitchCon. I think it was 2018, because they sold out, and it was such a horrendous thing that like they basically were like, oh, we're just going to put it all online. And so they just put it all online for everyone to buy. And I was like, man, are you kidding me? Like, I mean, of course I'm going to come, but I stood in line to get into your damn loot cave, and you just ended up selling everything online. Like, it's like, oh man,
that's brutal.
I didn't have to necessarily. The nice thing is I got stuff that was sold out, so that was kind of nice. But at the same time, like, I don't know, there's something about going to the loot cave or going to get like exclusive Twitch merch the first day, and then you're like, cool, I got the thing that I wanted. I don't know, there's something nice about that. I always like exclusive stuff. Like,
I think what you'll really like is when you finally go to an anime convention and you get to go walk the artist gallery and whatnot, because that's like all the posters I have up behind me are from the artist booths.
Yeah.
And I have a ton of stuff that are just, you know, you go there and you get to see all these things, and there's a ton of cool, unique stuff you can get there.
Yeah. That is one of my favorite places in TwitchCon every year is the artist alley. I always go visit Gears every year. I was extremely sad because I actually had saved up to try to get a original from him this year, because he's personally my favorite artist out of everyone that like I know who does art on Twitch. No offense, Jay, I love you.
Wait, you don't like my artwork? I did your emotes.
No, I absolutely adore your fucking artwork.
Don't
but yeah,
you want my signature?
he's my favorite. Isn't that weird though? That you're like friends, and it's like, oh Jay, you're a friend. I don't need your signature. Like,
I see how it is.
I know, right?
see how it is.
Yeah. Dude, I would love to have an original by you. Are you kidding me? Do you ever do line art and stuff like that on paper? Do you ever do pen and paper anymore?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't in a long time, but I used to all the time.
Yeah, because I mean, sure, I'd rock an original from you. Are you kidding me? That would be sweet. That's one of my favorite things to do. Yeah, it's like my favorite thing to do for art from artists. Like I have a couple, like stuff from Gears, but it's just like prints and stuff like that. So this year I was he usually what he does is he draws randomly, like during the convention, and then he'll sell those. And this year I wanted to buy one, I guess last year now, but yeah, so I was sad. I was like, no, the 1 year. So hopefully TwitchCon will be a thing this year, and Gears, I'm coming for you, man. All right. He also does commissions during it, and I kind of want to commission him to draw me a Totoro, because Totoro's like that's like what gatewayed me into anime and everything like that, and it would be special. And he does like anime-esque like manga art in a way. Like I want that kid to draw a manga unbelievably bad. If I was rich, I'd be throwing money at him to make a manga. Like even if I had to somehow.
There's so many people out there that wish they could get money to do a manga or something like that.
Oh man. Even if I had to like write for it, because I love writing and I have a couple manga ideas, but like, I would pay him in a heartbeat. Yeah. Like, I love his style. Not that I don't love yours, Jay.
No, just come with your cash. Throw it down.
I know, right?
Hey, man.
If I could just be like, all right, manga happen. Like, I would love that. That would be sweet. Because it's weird as like being a non-artist. I don't know how you feel about this, but man, some of that stuff feels like so out of reach. Like I would love to have a manga. I can't draw it, but like I could probably write for it. But
it's no different being an artist, because like, sure, I could draw you whatever you asked for, but if you're not paying me for it, like I'm not going to just draw it for myself. Like I don't have the time for that. I have clients to please. I have stuff to do. I have work to get done.
Yeah.
On my personal time is not let's draw a book. That's not happening, because otherwise I would just burn out and not get anything done at that point. So I guess there's no time to get those things done.
I guess that makes sense too, because like I'm similar, like, because I love writing, but I'm not going to just all of a sudden take my time to like, oh, I'm going to write a book. Like, I'm just going to write a book now. That's true,
but
actually.
the chance of it not turning out anything, right?
That's a good point.
Yeah,
That's an interesting way to look at it.
If you're not going to get paid for it at the end, or not guaranteed, right? Like, there's a good chance. Yes, I know that if I spend my time producing something, there's a good chance it's going to get paid for.
Yeah.
The problem is that time in between. I need to eat some food. I need to pay some rent.
No, no, right?
I'm not
exactly.
Getting all that stuff out there, and I do have projects like that I do work on. That is the future project. And that's even more the reason why I can't do something as big and as elaborate as a book, because I'm working on smaller designs for like a game or something like that.
Yeah.
And something much more feasible or within my grasp. Or even just trying to get portfolio pieces. I started doing Twitch emotes recently. And a part of like when I did yours, that was in my first like dozen I have ever done. Like I didn't know how to do emotes before I did yours or the few other people I've done. And like, yes, I picked up clients now and I have actual clients who want emotes, but I had to just start drawing random emotes to prove to myself more than anybody else that that was something I could do, because people immediately liked what I was doing and like, that's fine. But to be frank, I don't know what I was doing. And it's evident when you look at the ones I did originally versus the one I've done now. And there's a huge amount of growth in it, simply because it is such a uniquely different from my actual normal art style.
Yeah, I feel like emotes are an extremely weird beast too, personally, just because you have to make them look good at an extremely small size. Like, it's one thing.
It's so weird.
For me, like, I almost wish, like, I love Discord for the fact that, like, if you just post an emote, it's like a larger size, basically. Mm-hmm. I wish that they were always that size, or there was like a setting I could turn on, or I could make like, even in Twitch, like if you could post an emote of that size, like, oh man, they would look so pretty. Like they would, it's so much better. There's so much more detail you could put in it that is readable or legible.
28 is unintelligible.
It's so insane. Yeah, it's absolutely absurd. Yeah. But
I don't know who is looking at the 28 by 28 emote. I don't know where that pops up at, but it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't know either. I think it's one of those weird things, like, that when they were making emotes, or how they have it and why they have the three sizes, is it basically tries to blend them to make it a certain size. Like, because at the end of the day, I don't know, like, they're not 28 by 28 in Twitch, are they? Like, I have no idea. Truly.
That's what I'm wondering. Is it mobile that sees the 28 by 28?
Yeah, I don't know either. Yeah,
I don't know where it's posted that's the size that people see, but it's obviously somewhere. But it's such a suggestive on what that looks like. Most of them don't look like the actual product, because there's just 28 pixels by 28 pixels is not enough to like barely do a smiley face.
No, exactly. It's insane. Yeah, I've always commended people who can make really sweet looking emotes to that size. Like, it's an art form. It definitely is.
Well, and also like since I even doing yours, I had another artist. So most of the people who watch me on Twitch that have watched my art have been other artists. It's kind of funny. It's not like I'm pulling in all these random people. It's just other artists or other creators that need emotes. And that's fine, because those are people who are going to pay me anyways. But they came to me and they're like, using Clip to downscale your emotes looks worse than if you use this other program. So now I'm using a whole new program that downscales better. It's just called Photoshop, guys. Don't think I'm doing anything special here. But it really does. Like I do all my work in Clip because that's the better art program. But for downscaling to a better looking thumb or like emote size, for some reason Photoshop's algorithm for deciding which pixels to pick is better, and it looks cleaner. So yours look fuzzier than if I was to just re-upload them now.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, I remember you did send me at one point like updated ones of them. But you're saying like even now you could make them even better. That's what you're trying to say?
Yeah, not even like I wouldn't even have to redraw them. They would just
you would just re-downscale them.
Yeah. And they would look cleaner as opposed to how fuzzy they get.
Yeah. I feel like truthfully
small secrets like that.
Even like how they turned out for me like right now is like, man, they look good. I just throw them everywhere. Like you are definitely my favorite emote artist that I've had make me emotes. Like But the weird thing is,
Yay.
the majority of the emote artists that I've ever commissioned, like I remember my first friend I ever commissioned, the ones that she did, it was like her first time ever making emotes. And this is like in the
Mhm.
wild west of no one really knows how to make emotes. And so, yeah, I mean, I loved how they turned out, but they weren't like close to what I know she could pull off. And she was always like a pen to paper, how I always pictured her. I don't know. I know she was like transitioning to digital when she was doing mine,
Mhm.
but I'll never forget she did like a pen and paper of my emote at one point that she had done for me, and I'm like, holy shit, like this looks absolutely absurdly amazing. I'm not saying that the emote doesn't look amazing like in Twitch, but man, this is like a whole
Mhm.
nother quality of what the emote could look like. And then like the second time I got it was they were really good. I really like, I still use them in my channel, but they
Mhm.
were not like, I couldn't get across what I was trying to like get them to look like, if that makes sense. And then for
Okay.
you, I basically had figured out kind of by that point, I know what I'm aiming for as far as like what I want them to kind of look like. And you did very good at after I kind of explained what I was looking for to turn them into basically exactly what I was looking for. But
Yeah, you gave me a rough idea and I just ran with it.
yeah,
Um,
because I think
which I mean, yeah.
it's one of those things that I feel like a lot of times for artists, especially when working with artists and you're not an artist, it's hard to get across what's in your head, like what you see
Mhm.
and what you want. And I feel like that must be kind of frustrating at times as being an artist. I don't know.
Infinitely so.
Yeah, because I kind of feel that. And I'm always like, I'm going to try to be as detailed as possible and let you know as soon as possible, like, if I'm like, this isn't the direction I want to go. And the interesting thing I feel like is not being afraid to tell an artist, like, hey, by the way, you're not going the direction I want to necessarily take this earlier on, is kind of hard for some people because they're like, oh,
Mhm.
well, you're drawing it and like you're doing your thing and I just want you to do your thing, but this isn't what I want to look like. And then like the final product comes out and they're like, oh, but yeah, I really wanted him to have this thing. And it's like, dude, you could have told me
So
earlier
much sooner.
and I would
Yep.
have put the thing
You are
in.
explaining the life and problem
I
of being
know,
an
it's so
artist.
funny because like I'm not an artist, but I totally understand, and that's why I've always tried
Mhm.
to strive to be as upfront with my artists as possible. B, try to get earlier things from them. Be like, hey, I understand it's like an early draft or you're just fucking around, but like at least show me. And then like C, to like be like, all right, you know what? Like what I have right now is close enough or as close as I wanted to get anyways. So like don't worry. I'm not going to give you anything more. Like you're so
Yeah.
deep into making this thing and it's perfect the way it is. Unless maybe like coloration or stuff like that. I remember one of the emotes you did for me, you did the
Yeah.
ghost and he wasn't all white, or I can't remember what it was, but I was like, if you
Yeah,
could
he
just
was
make,
it just it was like the color was slowly fading out of him. So it was like the top was white and then it faded into color because he was
yeah,
slowly dying type of thing. And you're like, just make him all white, which was something that I had thought about doing. So when you asked for that, I was like, snap, done,
yeah,
because it
exactly.
was
Like,
something that I already had like I had done him fully brown, I had done him half fading, and I had done him white, and I was just like, and that's the thing I try to do for some of my clients is I'll submit the one that I think is best, or sometimes I'll just show them my iterations and let them pick which one.
yeah. I think it's a good way to handle it. I
Or
mean, especially coloration and stuff like that. Like, I feel like that's the easiest thing for me to ask an artist to
Mhm.
change. I'm like,
Oh
don't
yeah,
worry about adding anything in, but usually if your artist is doing what they're supposed to, they can go in and change a layer's color or fix something
yes,
like that
it's
fairly
all
easily.
it's sliders. You
Yeah.
really like once it's colored in, you just go back in and you play with the slider and change it to the color that you need to.
Yeah.
It's all digital. It's all super fast and easy to do that, which is funny because like as long as you know value and light as an artist, it doesn't matter what color I draw I could do all my work in 100% chromatic like pink and show that to somebody, and if they're like, I like that, and I'd just be like, what colors do you want it? Slide, 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 done.
Yeah.
Because as long as the shadows are correct, it will look correct when it's in the color you want. So
Yeah.
it's always going to be the same. Basically, your piece needs to look correct as black and white, and as long as you've done that,
That's
your
a
art
good.
pieces, whatever.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Color secondary.
Yeah.
Except for in a few occasions, and that's when you get into uh, like certain bounce lighting
Yeah, because
assets and whatnot. But like,
that kind of came into play with our logo. I remember, like when we were changing the color iterations and stuff like that. It was like, all right, well, us messing with this kind of does change certain things, and it's like I'm gonna have to go back and tweak some of this to make it look better. But it's weird. I remember just like, what colors do we want to land on, and then I'll go fix it later, sort of ordeal. Like,
yeah, and for the most part, I changed all those colors. Like I did dozens of iterations of
oh
colors
yeah,
in
you
front of
did.
you, and
Yeah.
then as soon as we settled on one that we went, I went to the main file and tweaked it correctly because a little bit of things needed to be more correct because there was no longer this. We had a secondary light source shining on it to turn it another color,
Yeah.
and we didn't want that glow anymore. So I just had to drop the glow, and that was easy.
Yeah.
But so there's sometimes a few little things that like in a piece, but the smaller the pieces, the easier it is to do. It's when you get into these like elaborate things with like a scenery, and you might get a little bit of problems with the artist. So your mileage may vary if you're trying to get your artist to change an entire sky color or something like that because of the way that the water reflects this in the person's eye and a whole bunch of other stuff that you might not notice because you're not the artist. But generally, yes, digital art is to the point where they should be able to adjust a color on the fly.
Yeah. Yeah. No, art for me is always like straight magic. 100%.
To me, a lot of it still is as well. Like,
Yeah.
as in depth and ingrained I am into my art, a lot of it is still things that I have new artists come to me and tell me different things on how to do things, and it changes my progress overnight, and I am able to do something different by the next day. Simply because I don't know a lot about digital art. I'm a traditional artist.
Yeah.
Like I did, all of my art was on a physical medium or tattooed on somebody because for 8 years I was a tattoo artist. So all these things, like I know traditional mediums. It's really only in the past couple of years that I switched to digital. And so a lot of it I'm still learning, and a lot of it is me still applying traditional medium techniques to something where another artist could just walk in and be like, hey Jay, did you know if you press this button and did that, you would achieve the effect you're doing twice as fast?
Yeah.
And that's part of my problem. I paint slower than I should because I'm just not using the tricks of the digital stuff.
Yeah. I feel like that transition must be strange in a lot of ways too. Because it's like on like actual art and stuff, if you want to shade things or do stuff like that, there isn't necessarily like a shortcut other than shading it or doing that type of thing, where a lot of art programs and stuff like that nowadays, I feel like, I don't know, help you in order to achieve your goal. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people would think that moving from paper to or traditional medium to digital medium would be the same as like changing from like colored pencils to markers. You would think that it was like that's the level of complexity, but it's not. The real comparison that I would like to make to somebody, the reason why they're so different, is it's like moving from a pencil drawing to sculpting with clay.
Yeah, okay, that kind of makes sense.
Are dramatically different.
I guess I could potentially see that.
Is sculpting in a way.
Yeah, I could totally see that. I definitely, yeah. Art is one of those things for me that is always kind of felt out of reach because I'm not necessarily good at drawing. I draw in a different style. It's a weird thing. Art is so subjective. I'm good. I'll pay you.
I can teach anybody to draw my style in a few months.
Yeah, as I said, I
can make you a carbon copy of me in 6.
I'll be that's so funny, but no, I'll just be one of your patrons. I would rather support you in that sort of way and use my time to do other things. But yeah,
I've taught a few people how to do my art style. I learned from.
I do like your art style, so.
And yeah, I've taught people how to do my art before. There's a couple people out there right now working in the tattoo industry who tattoo exactly like I do, or as I did. But yeah, I owe my art style to 3 different people who taught me. And I say 3 when really one of them didn't teach me at all. I just they get lumped in there because I did have 3 teachers. they taught me how to not do everything I was doing.
There you go. I mean,
That
it's
was
still
my
a way
first
to learn.
person.
Yeah.
Yeah, the first person I learned under taught me absolutely nothing. So they taught me how to realize when you don't know what you're doing and you're bullshitting everything, and how to go ask for the right person, which brought me on to my second teacher,
There you go.
who brought me from Alaska all the way down to Florida, who taught me everything, but neglected to tell me that I shouldn't trust his ass because he stole all my things and left, which is funny because he's the best teacher I've ever had and the worst enemy I have in the world.
That's so funny to think. It's one
Then
hell of a
followed-
combo.
Yeah. Followed my third teacher, who really brought it all together for me. Had no art style that I could use, but was able to teach me a whole bunch of traditional stuff and taught me a really good sense of like how to connect everything that I've already learned together. Even though he knew no way of my art style and I had no interest in his, he was still able to show me that there's more out there that you should always be integrating to really improve yourself, and brought me up to where I was as an artist. And then I would have stayed that way working in that industry for a long time if I hadn't gotten sick and had problems and ended up moving back out to California. And a whole line of story later, I'm now where I'm at working as a graphic designer.
Yeah, we'll have a whole Jay's life story one day. All right, we'll just he'll animate his life story. I don't know if you've seen people doing that, but that was actually like a thing for a while there back in the day.
Yeah, I liked a lot of those.
Some
you
of those
guys
are really
will
good.
all be really interested when you watch my second teacher steal everything I own.
That'll be a good.
Really
That'll be a good
segment.
section. Yeah. Well,
it's not the only time something like that happens.
Really? Oh God.
Oh yeah.
Poor Jay over here. My life would, if I animated my life one day, I'll have to do it. It's just so boring. It's beautiful. But on that note,
mine's a vivid tapestry.
On that note, you guys, I think we're gonna call it here. Thanks for everyone for coming through today. We got I love our conversations because they start in one place and then I just love watching them evolve. And I think that's my favorite thing about this podcast is like we come in, like, just so you guys know, sometimes we come in with ideas where we're going to go, and sometimes we just completely wing it. And sometimes it just flows into something we could never fully understand. But thank you guys for being here for the journey.
Yep, thank you guys.
I've been thinking about ending it basically with, do you have, like, where can people find you? Have you been doing anything? What have you been up to? Just like a quick check-in.
Yeah, I just started doing VR chat in addition to my art streams. So now there's some gaming content actually on my channels, also Genshin Impact, because I'm helplessly addicted. So I'm doing more than just art now. So check me out at twitch.tv/JLewis for a slew of things. Of course, we hopefully will be doing stuff, like I say every time, that we're going to start doing stuff on the Otaku flavored site. That's not just the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
But for the most part, check me out there.
We have
From
some
there,
stuff.
You can see my links to all my other stuff.
Yeah, links will be in the description below. And yeah, I've just started Ni no Kuni. I don't know if you guys like that, but I mean, nice anime vein. I've been doing the voices for the characters when they're not voice acted, which has been a lot of fun. Right now, it's basically the adventures of Rick and Morty, or as I like to put it, Ollie and Drippy. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I definitely, if you guys like that sort of thing and want to watch me make a complete ass of myself as I try to give people voices and have fun reading these things, feel free to stop in at twitch.tv/SavageBearTV. And yeah, hope to see you guys around. As always, you guys. What?
Go follow him.
Oh, there you go.
Follow me too.
Yeah, there you go. Drop follow.
Like, subscribe, everything.
Yeah.
You got to do it.
Follow the Twitter.
There's no ifs, ands, or but. You guys got to do it.
Follow the Twitter, you guys. Like, we need more Twitter followers. All right. Yeah. Go tell your friends. Get your friends to follow that. Okay. I don't even care if you use Twitter. Make a Twitter account. Okay. And yeah, follow us everywhere. I'll see you guys. Links will be down in the description. We'll see you next time. I can't even talk anymore. And yeah.
Take it easy, guys.
Stay otaku. No.
Still need to work on that. Branding pending.
All right. Bye, you guys.